I know you've had a very big couple of days, and it's my great honour to be able to address you at the end of what's clearly been a wonderful and very passionate conference. So let me begin by saying namaskar and good evening to all of you. Respected Bim Prasad Dungana, President of the Municipal Association of Nepal, Professor Dr. Bipin Adhikari, Convener, and Professor Wagle, Registrar of Kathmandu University, Members of Parliament, representatives of provinces and local governments, distinguished academics and experts from Nepal and the Asia-Pacific region, senior government officials, friends from civil society, media, and distinguished guests, and of course a very special greeting to my learned compatriots from Australia. I'm delighted to join this closing ceremony. The importance of this gathering cannot be overstated, coming as it does at such a critical juncture for federalism and inclusive democracy, both here in Nepal and globally. I'm sure that no one here has missed this month's headlines from publications like The Economist, which have observed that 2024 will put a spotlight on the global state of democracy as more people than ever head to the polls. In the coming year, we know that more than 70 elections are scheduled in countries that are home to around 4.2 billion people. For the first time, more than half of the global population will go to the polls in 1 year. And here in Nepal, as the political backdrop of recent weeks has underscored, the debate about federalism is alive and kicking. In the past week, I seem to have had numerous conversations with Nepali friends where they would inquire, "You've heard about the protest. You mean Durga Prasai?" I'd respond. And when I explained that by sheer coincidence, Australia was funding an international conference on federalism this week, eyes would widen, followed by the inevitable question, "And you're proceeding with the conference?" As I said to these contacts, and as I emphasise now, when a system of government is questioned, it's more important than ever that constructive public conversations are held in impartial environments to share and amplify accurate and useful information. So I begin by congratulating the Kathmandu University School of Law for organising such a successful, valuable conference at such a critical time. And the Australian government is pleased to have supported the Kathmandu University School of Law in this initiative through our partnership with our trusted, respected friends, the Asia Foundation, under our flagship Subnational governance program, now in its 7th year. We're delighted to have convened experts from Australia, from Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Norway, and Pakistan, along with Nepali experts, to discuss contemporary issues in federalism. Now, there's a default position as an ambassador when asked to speak at forums such as this conference, A, to wax lyrical about the experience of one's own country, and B, to offer commentary on the core subject matter. In the company of such eminent practitioners, I will avoid falling into either trap in my closing remarks. At the opening session, the presentation by Justice French, and since then our team of experts from Australia, John, Michael and Ian, included the most eloquent of reflections on the Australian experience of federalism. And then in Justice Batterai's remarks, again at the opening session, we were helpfully introduced to broader commentary on federalism through the Vice President, through Lumbini's Chief Minister and Deputy Mayor Sunita Dungol. We heard impassioned observations regarding federalism on the ground in Nepal at all tiers of government. And with this as our starting point, my most useful contribution now is to pick up on a few of the profound points made yesterday morning, to reinforce them and to hopefully leave them as closing sentiments of this vital conference. In Nepal, the dividends of federalism, though less than a decade old, are already visible. In the survey of Nepali people opinion poll conducted by Kathmandu University with support from the Asia Foundation and the governments of Switzerland and Australia last year, more than 54% of Nepalis said that the constitutional restructuring had improved government capacity to deliver services. This is a significant increase on the 34.8% response in 2017. But as Deputy Mayor Sunita told us yesterday morning, we are still learning, we are still practicing, and we are still seeing the different sides of federalism. We are trying to see the brighter side of federalism so that every individual in Nepal can see the beauty of federalism. She issued a clarion call. She said, instead of talking about whether federalism is good or bad, we need to use the space we have to work on strengthening federalism. Then Lumbini Chief Minister Chowdhury observed too that Nepal is in a federalist state, but its mentality is still centralised. And Justice French reminded us, it is harder to imagine a clearer scheme for cooperative federalism than Nepal has in its constitution and supporting legislation. But in the end, it's all about the people who are implementing it. The wide variations that we see in federal architecture across the world demonstrates that there is no unambiguous answer to the question of how best to strike a balance between federal, provincial and local priorities and aspirations. Even after 122 years of implementing federalism in Australia, debate continues on drawing that balance. And it is precisely from this position of not having clear-cut answers that Australia is pleased to walk with Nepal in its federalism journey, listening and learning, as Professor John Warhurst said to me privately at the start of the conference. The Australian government is therefore honoured to have supported this conference, to share our experiences and to learn from those of all countries represented here. This is not a one-off engagement, but a long-term commitment in our partnership with Nepal across all tiers of government. And November is proving to be a big month for shared learnings on federalism with the three tiers. In addition to this conference, from Sunday, Australia is hosting a UNDP-funded study tour by Nepali speakers and deputy speakers from federal and provincial parliaments to discuss cooperative federalism and democratic practice. Separately, we're supporting a visit to Australia next week by Deputy Mayor Sunita Dungal to meet with local, state and federal governments under the Australian Government Special Visits Program, and we hope that this conference itself will generate new networks and steer new activity. Once again, I commend the Kathmandu University School of Law and the Asia Foundation for bringing us together for such an important discussion, a dialogue which I hope will shape federalism in Nepal to respond to Deputy Mayor Sunita's 3 Cs of cooperation, collaboration, and mutually beneficial coexistence. But most of all, I congratulate the people of Nepal on what they have achieved in a few short years of federalism and for their insistence, for your insistence, on the continuing evolution of Nepal's own brand of federalism so that it is refined in ways that, as Sunita said, give hope to the millions of people living in Nepal. I am one of Justice French's 3 Australians per square kilometre in Australia, and for 3 years I've had the privilege of making my home in Nepal with the 216 Nepalis per square kilometre here. Our demographics might be different, but we share a common aspiration of living in countries which are stable, secure, sovereign and prosperous. The starting point for this is good, effective, inclusive and responsive government. And as we know and have been reminded over the past 2 days, it's all about the people who are implementing it. So my wish for Nepal is that your cooperative federalism implementers are people with the qualities that Justice French identified yesterday morning. People of vision, people of good faith, and people who demonstrate the ability to put the interests of the whole nation above their individual political aspirations and ambitions. After the many sacrifices that Nepalis have made to reach this point, the country certainly deserves such leadership. Thank you and Dhanyabad.